invocation. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, everyone. I will start the reading of chapter 17 now. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Canto 1, Chapter 17, Text 1. Sutta Uvacha Tatra Go Mithunam Raja Hanyamanam Anatvat Danda Hastam Cha Vrishalam Dadrase Nripa Lanchanam.
Translation. Sutta Goswami said, after reaching that place, Maharaja Parikshit observed that a lower caste Shudra, dressed like a king, was beating a cow and a bull with a club, as if they had no owner.
Text 2. Vrisham Rinala Dhwalam Mehantam Eva Bhipyatam Vepamanam Padikina Siddhantam Shudra Taditam.
Mataji, could you please scroll out?
Jyoti Mataji, please scroll up for Vatsala Mataji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. The bull was as white as a white lotus flower. He was terrified of the Shudra who was beating him, and he was so afraid that he was standing on one leg, trembling and urinating.
Text 3. Gamsha Dharma Dugam Dinam Vrisham Sutra Padahatam Vivatsam Ashru Vadanam Kashamam Yavasam Ichatam.
I think it's gone back to text 2. Could you scroll down, please? To text 3 translation. Mataji, could you scroll down, please? Thank you. Although the cow is beneficial, thanks. Although the cow is beneficial because one can draw religious principles from her, she was now rendered poor and calfless. Her legs were being beaten by a Shudra. There were tears in her eyes, and she was distressed and weak. She was hankering after some grass in the field.
Text 4. Papraicharatam arudha kartaswara parichidam megha gambhiraya vacha samaropita karmukaha.
Translation. Maharaja Parikshit, well equipped with arrows and bow, and seated on a gold-embossed chariot, the sutra, with a deep voice sounding like thunder.
Text 5. Kastvam macharane loke paladham se abalam bali nardevo si vishena natavat karmana dvichaha.
Translation. Oh, who are you? You appear to be strong, and yet you dare kill within my protection those who are helpless. By your dress, you pose yourself to be a godly man, king, but by your deeds, you're opposing the principles of the twice-born Kshatriyas. Hare Krishna.
Text 6. Yastvam Krishne gate duram saha gandiva dhanvana sochya Ashyase asochayan rahasi praharan vadam arhasi.
Translation: You rogue, do you dare beat an innocent cow because of Lord Krishna and Arjuna, the carrier of the Gandiva bow, are out of sight? Since you're beating the innocent in a secluded place, you are considered a culprit and therefore deserve to be killed.
Text 7. Tvam vamrinaladhvalaha padir nyuna padacharan vrisharupena kim kaschit devo na parire devo na parikedayan.
Translation: Then he, Maharaja Parikshit, asked the bull, "Oh, who are you? Are you a bull as white as a white lotus, or are you a demigod? You have lost 3 of your legs and are moving on only one. Are you some demigod causing us grief in the form of a bull?"
Text 8. Nachatu kauravindranam durdanda parirambite bhutale nupattante asmin vinate praninam suchaha.
Translation: Now for the first time in a kingdom well protected by the arms of the kings of the Kuru dynasty, I see you grieving with tears in your eyes. Up till now, no one on earth has ever shed tears because of royal negligence.
Text 9. Ma saurabhe yatra sucho vyato te vrashalad bhayam marudir amba bhadram te khalana mai shastari.
Translation: O son of Surabhi, you need lament no longer now. There's no need to fear this low-class Shudra. And O mother cow, as long as I'm living as the ruler and subduer of all envious men, there is no cause for you to cry. Everything will be good for you.
Text 10 and 11. Yashya rastre praja sarvas trasyante sadve asatubhi tasya matasya nashyanti kirtir ayur bhago gatihi. Isha rajanam paro dharmo ya artanam arti nigraha ata enam vadisyami bhuta druham asattamam.
Translation: O chaste one, the king's good name, duration of life and good rebirth vanish when all kinds of living beings are terrified by miscreants in his kingdom. It is certainly the prime duty of the king to subdue first the sufferings of those who suffer. Therefore, I must kill this most wretched man because he is violent against other living beings.
Text 12. Ko vrishchattava padam strin saurabheya chatuspada ma bhuvam stvadrasarastre rajanam krishnan uvartinam.
Translation: He, Maharaj Parikshit, repeatedly addressed and questioned the bull thus, O son of Surabhi, who has cut off your 3 legs, in in the state of the kings who are obedient to the laws of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, there's no one as unhappy as you.
Text 13. Akhyahi vrishabhadram va sadhunam akrata gasam atma vairupya kartaram parthanam kirti dushanam.
Translation: O bull, you are offenseless and thoroughly honest. Therefore, I wish all good to you. Please tell me of the perpetrator of these mutilations, which blacken the reputation of the sons of Pritha.
Text 14. जनेनागस्त्य अघं युञ्जन् सर्वतोऽस्या च मद्भयम् साधूनां भद्रम् ईवश्यत् असाधु दमने कृते.
Translation: Whoever causes offenseless living beings to suffer must fear me anywhere and everywhere in the world. By curbing dishonest miscreants, one automatically benefits the offenseless.
Text 15. Anagasva iha bhuddeshu ya agaskrin nirankushaha ahartasmi bhujam sakshat amartyasyapi sangadam.
Translation: An upstart living being who commits offenses by torturing those who are offenseless shall be directly uprooted by me, even though he be a denizen of heaven with armor and decorations.
Thank you everyone for giving me this opportunity. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for the beautiful recitations, Kusum Mataji and Vatsala Mataji. Thank you so much. So we're still waiting for Divyanam Prabhuji to join us. And while waiting for Prabhuji to join us, maybe I can recite the Mangla Charan prayer. So if you know the prayer, please join behind muted mics. ॐ ज्ञानतिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वापदान्तिकम् Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Visakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radhakanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. I'll just check and see. Prabhuji has joined us. Okay, Prabhuji hasn't joined us. So while waiting, maybe we can all say the Maha Mantra. You can all unmute your mics and we can all say the Maha Mantra together while waiting for Prabhuji to join us. Is that all right with everyone? Please unmute and we can all recite the Maha Mantra together. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Vrindavan Chandra Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
I thought I saw Prabhuji.
Krishna
Hare Krishna. Divya Nam Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Please
Hare
accept
Krishna,
humble
everyone.
obeisances or glories to Srila Prabhupada. We have just recited the Mangala Charan Prabhuji while waiting for you. Thank
Okay,
you.
great.
Hare
Thank you so much.
Krishna.
Thank you. Hi, Krishna, everyone. Sorry for being a little bit late today. So, just going to share my screen 1 second. So we are in a very important section of first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 17. And we are discussing today the verse 9, 10, and 11. So I will read the verse number 9, and then we'll discuss this briefly, and then we'll go and discuss the 10th and 11th verse as well. Ma saurabhe yatra sucho vetu tu varsalat bhayam marodre amba bhadram te kala namai shastari. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. O son of Shipra Mataji, can you please stay on mute if possible? Some background noise is coming. Thank you. O son of Surbhi, you need lament no longer now. There is no need to fear this low-class Sudra. And O mother cow, as long as I'm living as the ruler and the subduer of the envious men, there is no cause for you to cry. Everything will be good for you. Purport. Perfection of bulls and cows and all other animals can be possible only when there is a state ruled by an executive head like Maharaj Parikshit. Maharaj Parikshit addresses the cow as mother, for he is cultured, twice-born Kshatriya king. Surabhi is the name of the cows which exist in the spiritual planets and are specially reared by Lord Sri Krishna himself. As men are made after the form and features of the Supreme Lord, so also the cows are made after the form and features of Surabhi cows in the spiritual kingdom. In the material world, the human society gives all protection to the human being, but there is no law to protect the descendants of Surabhi, who can give all protection to men by supplying the miracle food, milk. But Maharaj Parikshit and the Pandavas were fully conscious of the importance of the cow and the bull, and they were prepared to punish the cow killer with all chastisement, including death. There has sometimes been agitation for the protection of the cow, but for want of pious executive heads and suitable laws, the cow and the bull are not given protection. The human society should recognize the importance of the cow and the bull and thus give all protection to these important animals, following in the footsteps of Maharaj Parikshit. For protecting the cows in the Brahmanical culture, the Lord, who is very kind to the cow and the Brahmanas, Go Brahmana Hitaye, will be pleased with us and will bestow upon us real peace. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuranmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashat Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So here, in this particular verse, we see some really good points Srila Prabhupada is trying to make, that what is happening here is that the Surabhi, you need not lament no longer. King Parikshit is addressing this cow, Surabhi, that there's no need to fear this low-class Sudra and oh mother cow, as long as I'm living as a ruler and subduer of all envious men, there's no cause for you to cry. Everything will be good for you. So what's happening here is Maharaj Parikshit is assuring the Mother Earth in the form of this cow, Surabhi cow, that please do not lament any longer because I'm there to protect you. So the teachings of the Varnashram Dharma, which were imparted to Uddhava in the 11th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, there Krishna also speaks about the similar principles about the cow protection, and there he tells Uddhava that, my dear Uddhava, that wherever the cows are protected and the brahmanas are taken care of as part of the Varnashram Dharma, then everything will be very nice. And when you have a righteous king like Parikshit Maharaj, Yudhishthir Maharaj, Prithu Maharaj, some of the examples from Srimad Bhagavatam, then the planet will not have a scarcity for anything, to be honest. And we saw this when Krishna was ruling, well, when Pandavas were ruling the planet. We then saw when Yudhishthir Maharaj was ruling the planet. We are now seeing when King Parikshit is ruling the planet and he's assuring of that same. Now, there are a couple of interesting points in this connection. One point is this assurance of King Parikshit Maharaj is actually not on his personal ability, but in the faith in Supreme Personality of Godhead. Why? Because he was a pure devotee of Krishna. And from the purport, we learn that Prabhupada is saying that when the cows and the brahmanas are protected, then the Krishna is very, very pleased actually. So similarly, Parikshit Maharaj was a pure devotee of Krishna from his very childhood. The word Parikshit means to examine. From the very birth, when he appeared, he was constantly examining and trying to look for Krishna in everyone. That was one of the things Parikshit Maharaj was doing. And that's why you could see that he had the symptoms of Krishna even while he was just actually, born, as in symptoms of pure devotional service towards Krishna. And now we see the same symptoms are being manifesting in this conversation to the Surabhi cow, where he's assuring that in my kingdom, you don't have to worry. I'm very much still present. Although some early signs of Kali Yuga were predicted, and we will see more of those as the Bhagavatam progresses. But in this particular section, King Parikshit Maharaj is giving a full assurance to Surabhi cows that please don't lament. And another point to note from particularly from the purport, what Prabhupada is saying is something very nice. He's saying that in the material world, the human society gives all protection to human being, but there's no law to protect the descendants of Surabhi, who can give all protection to men by supplying the miracle food milk. So you see, the milk is such an important element for our growth of the finer tissues of the body. Prabhupada explains this in many places, where he says that these finer tissues, they get a lot of nourishment when one drinks hot milk, and through that our intelligence becomes very sharp, and through that intelligence one is able to worship Mukunda or Hari. So that's why there is such an importance, and that is the reason why the milk is called as a miracle food. From milk you can make thousands of sweet preparations. From milk you can, you know cure disease, like in the form the same milk when turned into a yogurt or curd. When there is, Prabhupada says, when there is someone's not well, a stomach upset, dysentery, you give them the yogurt, and the same yogurt can act as the best medicine to cure that person. Similarly, the milk, Prabhupada, there is a letter I think Prabhupada writes to one of his disciples, where he says that, we should devotees should have hot milk in the night and read Krishna book before they go to bed. So the reason it is suggested that the hot milk is, especially in the night, is very good for the digestive system, And it just helps, clear everything in our mind, and just prepares our tissues to become more spiritually strong, to digest or to accept or assimilate spiritual knowledge. Milk is such an important element. And unfortunately, in this age where we are really struggling with the milk, it does become a challenge. Recently, I want to share with you all, we met with His Holiness Bhakti Rasamrit Maharaj. I was in Vrindavan for just 3 to 4 days, last week. And in the month of Purushottam, and after so many years, I saw His Holiness Bhakti Rasamrit Maharaj there, and we had a good fortune to meet him for an hour. And Maharaj was sharing such a nice, it's not a story, it's a real thing, or like, it's kind of a story, that many years ago he gave a lecture in Melbourne, which was attended by a couple who later on felt very inspired by Maharaj's teaching, and he did not plan that particular verse, but the verse was about Bhagavatam in cow protection, and Brahmana protection. So after the lecture, the couple felt so inspired that they wanted to do something for cows. And so they approached Maharaj, said, they're jewelers, they wanted to buy a farm, they wanted to do something. But it just turned out that buying of the farm was very, very complex, and Maharaj told them it's not easy. But he gave them a wonderful idea. He said, why don't you go and speak to some farmers in Melbourne and ask them, tell them that, okay, if you have 100 cows, then the 50 cows from that, you you take care of them on our terms and don't send them to slaughter, and we will take all the milk. And Maharaj knew that if somebody was to agree, then the milk price will be 3 times normally that price. And that's what we pay here for the Ahimsa milk in London. We pay that much because that's what the milk really costs to look after the cows in this country who are not being sent to the slaughterhouse. So then that couple started to go around various farms, had no success. Finally, they found one farmer who agreed to their proposition and agreed with the 40 cows, and the whole thing started. Slowly, the milk started to come. But over a period of time, something happened, and the farmer changed his mind, or he was not well, and then that didn't work out. So then they went to some other places, and then they finally found one more farmer who agreed. And after a while, they had 50 cows, and the farmer was, charging them 3 times more and taking care of those cows and not sending them to slaughterhouse. And finally, what happened? The farmer died, and then they were left with these 50 cows. And that's when they decided to buy a farm and a land. So now they have a big piece of land. They have these 50 cows. They're now starting to grow their own stuff, looking after the cows. So something like this started, and now you can see it has such a big future actually in Australia. So I felt very inspired after hearing this from Bhakti Samrit Maharaj. And I said, what an amazing story. Um, so there are two things in this. One, that there is no lack of determination when you want to try and do something in spiritual life. Krishna arranges, when the senior devotees gives you blessing, anything is possible. So I just wanted to share that it was very appropriate in this connection, that how the importance of cow protection, and now everything will come because they protected these cows actually. Everything will be provided by Krishna. And that's why Prabhupada says that the human society should recognize the importance of the cows and the bull, and thus give all protection to these important animals, following in the footsteps of Maharaj Parikshit. For protecting the cows in Brahmanical culture, the Lord, who is very kind to the cows and the Brahmanas, Go Brahmana Hitayeche, will be pleased with us and will bestow upon us real peace. So those were some thoughts from the purport. The next one is a slightly longer purport. I will share my screen, and maybe devotees can also chip in. And I'll go, because of the time, I'll go straight to the translation. O chaste one, the king's good name, duration of life, and good rebirth vanish when all kinds of living beings are terrified by miscreants in his kingdom. It is certainly the prime duty of the king to subdue first the sufferings of those who suffer. Therefore, I must kill this most wretched man because he is violent against other living beings. Anybody would like to volunteer to read the first paragraph?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna,
Hare
Nilavasana
Krishna,
Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Pranam.
I'll read the first paragraph, Prabhu.
Please.
Okay. When there is some disturbance caused by wild animals in a village or town, the police or others take action to kill them. Similarly, it is the duty of the government to kill at once all bad social elements such as thieves, dacoits, and murderers. The same punishment is also due to animal killers because the animals of the state are also the what is this? Praja means that one who has taken birth in the state, and this includes both man and animal. Any living beings who takes birth in a state has this primary right to live under the protection of the king. The jungle animals are also subject to the king, and they also have a right to live. So, what to speak of a domestic animal like the cows and bulls? Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Thank you. So just before we go to the next paragraph, couple of points. Number one, very important point, the word praja is very significant here. When the word praja is used, it is not conversant or related just to the human beings. In the Valmiki Ramayana, when you hear or read about that Ramayana pastimes, Lord Ram, when he was a king, or Bharat while king was in exile, and how Bharat was ruling the kingdom, although living outside the state or the kingdom, just at the outskirts in a small hut and drinking some barley mixed with the cow urine. Those were the things Bharat Maharaj was having, and through that he had Lord Krishna's, Lord Ram's padukas on the throne, and that's how he worshipped. It